Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. Today is Friday, June 23rd, I think. And I am going to share with you what I'm going to be working on for the next weekish. And also I am doing a weekend reading challenge on my Patreon, which is great because I did not get as much read this past week as I was hoping to. But that's okay. I think that having a weekend reading challenge will kind of light a bit of a fire under me and get me a little bit more motivated to read a little bit more. At least that's my hope. My goal for my weekend reading challenge is to read 400 pages, which is kind of a lot, but I also don't have a ton on my plate this weekend. I've just cleared a lot of things, so I didn't have as much to do in like the week or two following my surgery. So I think that that is going to be not an unachievable goal for me. So I am currently reading The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. I'm over 100 pages in, about 115 pages in, and I am supposed to be reading this for a homeschool mom group book discussion that is going to be happening on Thursday. And I am not as far into it as I would like to be. I think I'm about a quarter of the way through it because I think it's a little over 400 pages. So I'm about a quarter of the way through it, but I'd hoped to finish it by today. And have I? No, I have not. I have about like 300 pages left in it. So I really want to prioritize this book a lot so that way I can be ready for that group discussion. And then also for my Patreon, our group read for this month is The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. There's a bookmark in here. I've not started it. And so this is the other book that I hope to prioritize this weekend. This book is longer than I thought it was. I thought it was like 200 pages or less, like maybe 150, 200 pages. It's actually close to 300 pages. It's 270 pages in this edition. And that was a little bit alarming for me to realize that, and I haven't even started it. And the discussion for this one, I think, will probably be next Friday, a week from now. So these are my two big priority books for this weekend because I would love to finish one of these. I don't have to finish both of them, but I would love to finish one of them so I can really focus on the other one next week and get both of them completed before those book clubs. But those aren't the only things that I am currently working on for this reading vlog, because obviously this reading vlog is longer than just a weekend. It's for a whole week. So I am still working on Assassin's Apprentice. As I said in my last vlog, I'm a little over halfway through, loving it so very much. So there's that's going on, and then I am working my way through Labyrinths still. Everyone that I'm reading this with is already done and has been done for several days, if not longer. So I really kind of have dragged my feet on this one, partly because I just was taking a lot of time to absorb some of the things, and partly because like post-surgery, my brain could not handle Borges for like 4 or 5 days. So so now it can, and it's doing pretty well, and I have finished all the short stories and have read several of the essays. I think I have about like 50, 60 pages left of this, something like that. So I still have quite a few essays, and then I have all of the parables. Haven't read any of those yet, but those are pretty short. I really want to finish this by the end of this reading vlog, as well as this. I really want to finish this. If I can finish all 4 of these books by the end of this reading vlog, I will be doing marvelously. So that's what I'm hoping for. Anyways, these are my plans for the week so far, and I'll keep you updated as we go. So I am going to update you on how my weekend reading challenge went. My goal was hopefully to finish and start Age of Innocence, or just finish Return of the Native, and I did neither of those things. And I didn't read 400 pages, which was my goal, but I did read 325. So I got really close. So I'm getting to the point where I'm getting closer to the end of some books. So I figured I'd give you a little bit of an update, even though I haven't quite finished yet. But I'm getting really close to the end of Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. And I think I said in my last update that the native was supposed to be this cousin of Thomasin, who was the girl who got jilted, and that he was supposed to come back. And I was like, I don't know when he's gonna come back. And literally the next chapter I read, he came back. So he's been in the rest of the book, but we have almost probably like maybe a quarter-ish of the book, and he's not in it, even though he's like the title character. I have had such a hard time with this book for some reason. Like every time I pick it up, it's like hard to engage my brain when I'm reading it. And I was like, is it like the language? Has it been a while since I've read a Victorian book? And it has not, because I just read Middlemarch recently. And so I'm like, that's not it. What is happening? Why is this just me? Is it the book? I don't know, but at some point when I got close to the halfway point, something clicked in my brain and I can't get enough of this book now. So like I said, the native has returned. I don't want to say a whole lot more about the story itself, except for the fact that it's like, I don't even know, a love square, a love, I don't know. There's like 5 people that are kind of involved in this, which is kind of interesting. So I really disliked the main girl who we spend a lot of our time with, Eustacia Vi, and she is the one who was originally with Wild Eve, and then Wild Eve ended up falling in love with Thomasin and wanting to marry her, and then he jilted her because of Eustacia. And Eustacia is such a selfish, nasty character, in my opinion. Like, I don't feel sorry for any of the things that end up happening to her, because she has all these grandiose hopes of becoming a fine Parisian lady someday, or at least, you know, living in Paris and being able to indulge in art and dancing and all of these kind of like upper class things that she loves. But instead she's stuck on the heath in what is it? It's like Egdon Moor or something like that. Egdon is in it. And so she's just stuck here in this country place with these country people, even though she actually has education and things like that, and she hates it and she despises being there. And basically, you know, she ends up falling in love with a person with the hopes that that person is going to help her get to Paris and going to help her achieve these goals, even though the person that she married has told her their hopes and dreams and they are not the same as hers at all. But she's so selfish. It's like the only reason that she cared about this person was when they could give her something that she wanted. And then once it no longer seemed that way, she is miserable in her marriage because she didn't actually love the person for themselves, which is just like, and I feel like I'm sure this is her on the cover. I feel like she's supposed to be like the main character. We spend so much of our time with her. We still have not spent that much time with Thomasin, despite the fact that she is a very like key player in this story. But Eustacia's so unlikable, and I guess I'm used to having like someone I can kind of root for in Hardy books, and it was a while before I met someone that I could really root for, because I hated Eustacia and I hated Wild Eve even more. Like, he is just the worst. You do not want to be married to this man. You do not want this man courting you. You do not want this man in your life. But I did like the Reddleman. I liked Thomasin, despite the fact that we really don't get to know her very well. And then once Clem Yeobright comes back, he's the native, like I said, once he comes back, I love him and I love his character, and I love all these country people that are surrounding them. The way that they just approach things and the way that they talk about things is hilarious to me. They're very like superstitious people, very country people, and so some of the things that they say is just like hilarious to me. I love their conversations in here. We overhear a lot of conversations, and they're just really like nice little interludes in the midst of some very unlikable people. But I think that that's why it took me so long to get into it, though, is because I really wasn't liking Eustacia despite spending so much time with her. And now it's getting to the point where like the plot of the story is like really moving, and I'm really enjoying it. And I don't want to say too much more than that because I don't really want to be spoilery about things, but it is just, it's getting so good. It's getting to the point where I'm like, this is all I want to sit around and read today. I have responsibilities and I don't want to be responsible. I'm still really enjoying Assassin's Quest. I read 2, 3 something chapters like that over the weekend, and so I think that ended up being like 40 or 50 pages or something like that, because the chapters are long in here, and I'm still really enjoying this one. But I'm having a hard time, like, because I'm enjoying it and I love it, but I have some book club books that I'm trying to prioritize, so I'm reading this one a little bit less. This was my bedtime reading until Return of the Native picked up, and then like last night I read a ton of that before bed because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's getting juicy. So up to that point, it was so hard for me to get into Return of the Native that I wasn't reading it right before bed because I was tired and I was fighting my brain, just couldn't focus on it. And this is much easier to focus on. So I mean, I am more than halfway through. I think I have maybe 300 pages left ish out of about an 800 page book. So I'm working my way. I have almost finished the essays in here. I have one essay left and then I can move on to the parables. The problem is this last essay is this long. It is it's so long. It's like 20 pages. And his other ones have only been a couple of pages. I've already talked to Dia and she said that she got really bored during this last essay. So I don't know. I'm a little demotivated to read it, and I'm wondering if I can even read it in one day. Probably not. So I may have to split it up over the next couple of days. I still think I can finish this by the end of the week, because once I get to the end of that essay, I just have parables and that's it. This is the parables. That's it. And most of them are just like a page or something. So I can totally still finish this by the end of the week, I think. And then lastly, I did finally start The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton. This is for my Patreon book club. I'm not very far in. I am 32 pages in and I've read the first 5 chapters. And I'm really enjoying Edith Wharton's writing style, which I kind of anticipated. A lot of people who have similar reading tastes to me, so they really like her writing style. And I do too. I really like the way she talks about things and the way she inserts so many like literary and art references in this book so far. And that is just really fun because some of it's stuff I recognize, some of it's not. Different paintings and things that she references, so I look them up because she's comparing people to like Joshua Reynolds portraits, and I'm like, I don't think I've seen those before. So I went ahead and like looked some of them up. I'm like, okay, I get it. So that's been really fun. I really was not anticipating that in this. I can kind of already see where this book is going. I really do not like the main character. What is his name? Newland Archer. So he is getting engaged to this lady at the beginning of the book, and he loves her for her innocence. And the way that he talks about her innocence is just like kind of weird. Maybe a little bit creepery in my opinion. And I think he wants someone he can mold. His family's not a huge fan of the girl, but they don't dislike her, and they're so glad that he's found someone to be engaged to after he had ended a tryst that he had with a married woman. So I'm like, good job. You're great. Who wouldn't want to marry you? And so anyways, now this innocent, lovely girl's cousin has come back from like being abroad and being in a very scandalous situation where she was married to someone and then her husband cheated on her and left her. So she left with his secretary and had an affair with his secretary. And now here she is back in England. Not England, New York. Sorry. Anyways, here she is in New York, and you can already tell, like, even though he's like acting like he's disgusted with her, he's also intrigued by her, and they knew each other when they were young, and you just know they're gonna have an affair. And so apparently I am destined within the past few months to read books about people who marry the wrong people and are very miserable, because that was Middlemarch. I'm assuming that's going to be The Age of Innocence, and that is also for sure true of Return of the Native. I'm like, I am really picking these classics with like absolutely no good examples of married life. But anyways, I'm liking the writing style so far. I would say that if you are sensitive to like fat shaming / fat phobic kind of descriptions of people, there is a lot of that in this book. Like, there's one character who's fat, and it's like, this is her one personality, and she's apparently so fat that she never leaves the house and she just never moves. And it like describes like so much of her, and it's done it like 4 or 5 times that I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, this does not feel like good character development to me. That it's like, this is her one personality trait that you go on and on and on and on and on and on about how fat this person is. And she's not even a main character. She's like the grandmother or the aunt of the girl that Newland Archer is engaged to at the beginning of this story. And then she's also related to this lady who's come back from Europe because they're cousins, the girl he's engaged to, and the countess, who is very scandalous. So I'm kind of like annoyed by that. Just because I just like, it's like, it just feels very repetitive, even though she's finding new ways to like drive the point home that this person is ridiculously fat. But you know, the rest of it is, the writing is good, but it just, I don't know. It's one of those things that I'm just like, when you over and over again describe one aspect of a character, especially when it's a physical aspect, it doesn't feel like character development to me. It feels like you don't have anything else to say about them. And so that's kind of how I feel about that. But I'm really liking the writing so far, even though I'm not really liking the characters. But I went into this knowing that the characters were going to be unlikable. I was really well aware of that, and that she likes to write about people who are not faithful. So I already went into this book knowing that, so I mentally prepared myself, and so I'm enjoying it overall. Reading the first 5 chapters was like a breeze. It was so easy for me to get into her writing, and also so easy for me to just get into the plot and be interested in what's happening, as opposed to this one. But I do want to finish this one. I need to finish this one by Friday evening, because that's when our live chat is. I'm 30 pages in out of like 270 pages, but considering I read those 30 pages in a short amount of time and I really enjoyed them, I don't anticipate that being a problem. But I'm going to finish this one first, not only because this book club is first, but because I'm so invested in the plot of this one at this point. So that's my reading update after my reading challenge of a weekend. I'm pretty pleased with the progress I've made, and I still hope to finish all 4 of these books by the end of the week, but we'll see. I'm sure I will update you again soon. It is now Friday, so time for the final update for this vlog. I am really pleased to say that I have met most of my reading goals this week, which is awesome. So first of all, I did finish Return of the Native in time for my very first in-person book club meeting, and it was so much fun. I loved it so much. It made me very happy, and it was just fun to talk about this book. I think general consensus of this book was it was kind of difficult to read. I think most of us, with the exception of myself and one other person, really haven't read much Victorian literature, so the language was a little bit of a hurdle for some people. But even for me, who is used to reading a lot of Victorian literature, I still had a hard time with this one. I mentioned already in one of my updates that it felt like not much happened until about halfway through the book, and so it was very slow and difficult for me to get into, and once the drama picked up, it was really good. So I ended up giving this 4 stars overall because I really did enjoy it. I would totally reread this at some point, but it's definitely not my favorite Hardy. If I'm gonna rank them, Tess is my favorite, then Far From the Madding Crowd, then this one, then The Mayor of Casterbridge, and then Jude the Obscure. So this is my 5th Hardy that I have read, and I really did like it overall. I think I probably had a higher opinion than everyone else there, which is totally fine. It was really fun to rant though, because I feel like this book has way less characters that you can root for than a lot of Hardy's other books. A lot of Hardy's other books, you have at least like 1 or 2 people that you really like, or even if bad things are happening to them, they're very sympathetic characters like Tess, and this one was not so much that way. And so it was really fun to just rant about how awful most of the people were in this book, and I was like, hey guys, makes you feel better about your life and your family, doesn't it? I also finished Labyrinths by Borges, and what a journey this book has been. I just am in shock over how much I loved this. I spent pretty much my entire month with this because I finished this yesterday, and today is June 30th, and I started it on June 1st. And so it has been a journey with this book, and that has been so wonderful. I read it almost every single day of the month in little bits and chunks, and gosh, like it just made me think so deeply. It's very philosophical. It's very like metaphysical at times. It very much dives into, you know, thoughts of like time. Is time real? Is thought real? Like it gets very like deep and weird at a certain point. So it's not a book that I would necessarily widely recommend to everyone. I would want people to know going in that he dives really deeply into, I feel like especially time and the circularness of time and understanding time and all these different things. And it's very intellectual at times and very philosophical most of the time, but it just made me think so deeply, and that I think is why I loved it so much. Not to say that I understood everything in it, because not even close, and I would think that upon a reread there would still be so much meaning that I don't glean, or things that I interpret differently, because so much of it is open-ended. He doesn't just hand it to you and say, here you go, here's the natural conclusion of this story or of my point that I'm trying to make. I think his point overall was just to make you think, and very successful for me. I think that this is probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year, which is absolutely shocking to me. Also, just in the nick of time, because tonight is my Patreon book club, this morning I finished The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, and I have super mixed feelings on this one. I really love Edith Wharton's writing a lot. Super enjoyed that. I think that she writes so beautifully, and I really get on with her writing really well, and I found some of the characters to be kind of unlikable but also very sympathetic, but I didn't feel that way so much about the main character, Newland Archer. And I think part of the reason for that is this story is kind of a journey in his hypocrisy in a way, because he wants to be progressive and he wants these certain ideals that are happening, you know, kind of like women's freedom and the ability to divorce and not be ostracized by society, and different ideas like that of women being just as free as men are. However, he seems utterly incapable of being able to walk that out, because he feels so bound by conventionality and just all of the societal expectations around him. He still feels the need to play into those, to give into those, and he's not willing to let go of the security that comes with being in a rich family and following those things. And to me, that made him feel really a lot less sincere to me in every decision that he made and every word that he spoke and all the emotions that he was feeling. It's not like he wasn't feeling the emotions, but he'd say one thing and do exactly another thing, because he was wrestling between like his heart's desire and then security and expectations. And I don't know, that just kind of, I don't know, it's interesting. I still did like it to an extent and then not like it to another extent, so I feel really torn on it. Not totally sure if I can give it a rating right now. I'm kind of leaning towards, you know, like 3.5, but my opinions may change after our discussion in Patreon tonight a little bit, because I feel like this is one that there's just a lot to talk about in there. Last but not least, Assassin's Quest. I did not finish this. I was focusing really hard on Return of the Native and Age of Innocence, that this kind of got put to the wayside for a lot of the week, unfortunately. I picked it up little bits here and there, but overall not very much. So I am about 58% of the way through. Will I finish it by the end of the day so I can say, yes, I finished this in the month of June? I really doubt it. I would love to finish it over the weekend, so hopefully in the next vlog I will have this finished. That's what I really hope. But I also know that starting June 1st is the beginning of K-Tropathon and Jane Austen July and a couple other buddy reads that well, there's one buddy read in particular that I am starting on July 1st, and so I'm like really excited about so many of the books coming up. So I kind of wish I had been able to finish this in June, but it's just, unfortunately, although I am enjoying it, it's not gripping me in the same way that the first two books did. And I don't know if that's my own mental headspace or if it's the book itself. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I'm still loving it. I'm not going to say that this is like a bad book, because it's great. I still love Robin Hobb's writing, but the first two books sucked me in and wouldn't let go, and I wanted to forego all of my responsibilities and every other buddy read I had planned and just finish the book. And you know, I read really quickly the first two books because they just sucked me in, and this one just doesn't have the same pull for me. And that must be me, because Robin Hobb's writing is still so good and the characters are still so compelling and I still love this story. So it must just be me in the time where I am right now. Although I have had some people tell me that this is, in their opinion, the weakest book in the trilogy. So maybe I'm slightly validated in my feelings that way, but I don't really know. But I still like it. I'm still enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this trilogy concludes. There we go. That's what I read this week. I call this a very successful week because last week I don't think I finished anything. Oh, I finished Knowledge of the Holy, I think, last week, my last reading vlog, and I was just in the progress of so many things, and to have finished 3 books in this vlog feels so good. So I hope that this has been satisfactory for you, because I feel like the last vlog was not very satisfying because I was still in the middle of so many things. But to actually have concluded 3 books and be able to tell you my final thoughts feels really good for me. So hopefully it feels good for you too. I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What have you been reading this week? Did you finish any books coming to the end of June? Actually, this I think will go up on July 1st. So June is technically over once you are watching this. So hopefully you had a good reading month. Hopefully you were able to finish up some books to make room for books that maybe you're planning to read in July. But I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. I always love chatting with you about whatever you've been reading. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.